Mark Johnson paused at the entrance of Platinum Motors, his fingers tightening around the glass door handle. The showroom before him gleamed like a palace of speed and status, filled with sleek, high-end vehicles that cost more than some houses. Today was the day. After months of dreaming and planning, he was finally here to buy his dream ride. But as he stepped inside, a strange tension clung to the air, a whisper of something off. The dealership smelled of polished leather and fresh engine oil, and the floor shone like a mirror beneath the bright overhead lights. Mark, a black man in his 40s with a quiet confidence, walked in wearing a well-worn denim jacket and sturdy boots. His eyes locked onto the car he'd been fixated on for weeks, a gleaming white convertible, its curves catching the light just right. Before he could take a step closer, a man in a sharp gray suit appeared, moving like a gatekeeper blocking access to a treasure. Brad Simmons, the head salesman. He had slick-back blonde hair and an expression that looked permanently unimpressed. His gaze swept over Mark like he was taking inventory, and immediately discarding him. Brad's lip curled. "Sir, I think you're lost. This isn't a used lot." Mark blinked, his easygoing expression faltering. "I know exactly where I am. I came to see the convertible." He nodded toward the car, unshaken. Brad crossed his arms, a smug smirk settling on his face. "That thing costs more than most people make in a year. Do you even know the price?" A familiar weight settled in Mark's chest. He'd faced this kind of treatment before, condescending, dismissive, laced with something unspoken but loud. And yet, it never got easier. His voice remained calm. "I know exactly how much it is. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a closer look." Brad let out a sharp, mocking laugh. "Look, pal, we don't have time for window shoppers. Maybe try a dealership on the south side?" The insult landed, sharp and clear. Mark's fists clenched at his sides. He had the money to buy that car 10 times over. But none of that mattered to Brad. Mark exhaled, steadying himself. "I'm not here to waste anyone's time. I'm a serious buyer." Brad wasn't listening. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave," he said, already motioning toward the door. "We have real customers to attend to." Silence stretched between them. Mark's jaw tightened. He could argue, demand to see a manager, make a scene. But he knew better. Some fights weren't worth words. With quiet dignity, he turned and walked out. But what neither man realized was that someone had been watching. The reckoning. High above the showroom, behind a sleek glass office window, Emily Simmons had seen everything. The dealership owner's daughter, young, ambitious, and fiercely independent, had recently taken over a major portion of the family business. Unlike her father, she wasn't blind to the world's injustices. And what she had just witnessed made her blood boil. Without hesitation, Emily strode out of her office, her heels clicking against the marble floor like gunfire. She moved with purpose, her expression thunderous. Brad barely had time to react before she was in front of him. "What the hell was that?" His brows lifted in fake innocence. "What do you mean?" Emily's voice dropped, cold and sharp. "The way you treated that man. Who do you think you are?" Brad shrugged. He didn't look like he could afford anything here. "I was saving us time." Emily inhaled sharply, disbelief flashing in her eyes. "And did it ever cross your narrow mind that appearances can be deceiving?" Brad smirked. "If he had money, he'll come back." Emily's lips pressed into a thin line. "Oh, he'll be back," she said, voice laced with something dangerous. "And when he is, you're going to regret every word you just said." That evening, Emily tracked down Mark's contact information and dialed his number. "Mr. Johnson, this is Emily Simmons. I'm the owner's daughter. I saw what happened today, and I want to personally apologize. That treatment was unacceptable." On the other end, Mark hesitated, caught off guard by her sincerity. "I appreciate that, Miss Simmons. But I don't think I'll be coming back." Her heart sank. "Please, just give me one chance. Come back tomorrow. I promise things will be different." There was a pause. Then, finally, Mark exhaled. "All right. I'll be there." Justice served. The next morning, Mark walked back into Platinum Motors. This time, his stride was deliberate, his head held high. Emily was waiting for him. She greeted him warmly and led him straight to the convertible. This is the one, right? Mark nodded, worried but intrigued. Yeah. This is it. Great, Emily said with a grin. Let's take it for a spin. As they weaved through the city streets, Emily spoke candidly. I want this dealership to stand for something better. For fairness. For real service, not prejudice. People like Brad don't belong here. When they returned, Emily didn't hesitate. She handed Mark the keys. His brows furrowed. What's this? The car, she said simply. It's yours. Mark's eyes widened. I can't accept this. It's too much. Emily smiled. Trust me, the cost of this car is nothing compared to the lesson Brad is about to learn. At that moment, Brad strolled into the showroom, oblivious, exuding his usual smug confidence. Emily turned, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. Brad. You're fired. His smirk vanished. What? You heard me. Pack your things. Get out. His face turned an ugly shade of red. You can't be serious. Emily crossed her arms. I've never been more serious. This dealership has no room for bigots. As Brad stormed out, humiliated, Mark turned to Emily, his expression unreadable. Thank you, he said at last. Not just for the car, but for standing up for what's right. Emily met his gaze, unwavering. It's the least I could do. People like Brad think they can get away with this kind of thing. Not on my watch. As Mark drove away, his new car gleaming under the morning sun, something inside him felt lighter. Maybe justice wasn't always immediate. But today, it had been served. And Emily? She vowed that from this day forward, Platinum Motors would be known for more than just luxury. It would be known for fairness, respect, and a promise that no one would ever be turned away for being who they were.